Hey, what's up? It's Nick Poliokini, and you've seen me spending a lot of time, in fact, in this incredibly stunning Art Deco space right now. I'm back on the Queen Mary in downtown Long Beach once again. You saw me here with the Grey Ghost Project and Rebecca Knight, and you also saw me with Queens on the Queen. And now I actually get to sit down with two of the movers and shakers. These two handsome gentlemen to my left are, we're just gonna say the shot callers here. And it might be, you know, captain and first mate of the Queen Mary, so to speak. But I would love you to meet Steve and Dylan. I'll let them introduce themselves what their actual titles are. I would rather them be, you know, something nautical, but Steve, what do you do here?
So we always say titles aren't that important when we come onto the ship. The ship, it's just awesome that we all work as a team. But my name is Steve Caloca, and I'm the managing director here.
And I'm Dylan Matteson. I think you just called me Gilligan. I don't know how I feel about that, but I'm the director of experiences here. Yeah, excited to talk to you today.
Yeah, which is great. No, first mate, because you have to remember that we're dealing with, you know, the British Navy here for the Queen Mary, and I won't take you to task and get all the details unless you really want to go tit for tat on the history of the Queen herself and when she became the Grey Ghost. But these two gentlemen have an unusual role because they are the people who help steer the ship, and not to sound too tongue-in-cheek because I'm obviously on the Queen Mary, but with Steve running it and Dylan taking care of the immersive side of it, we're gonna really dive deep into a lot of the things that are available for you to enjoy during the summer season here, and pretty much what's on deck, realistically, for the Queen Mary. In fact, something that's incredibly exciting that is returning this fall after a few years, maybe on the other side, if you will. But I wanna start out with you guys and talk a little bit about who you are and how you came to the Queen. So Steve, we'll start with you. Nicknames when you were a kid. Any nicknames when you were a kid?
Nicknames, well, my middle name is Leonard. I'm not too hot about it.
Okay.
So I think my nickname, people would call me Leonard and they know it would make me mad. But for those of you out there, Leonard's a good name. But that was my nickname, is Leonard, even though Steve.
So it didn't even go to like Lenny or anything shorter?
No, Lenny. Leonard was it.
Okay.
What about you, Dylan?
Dylan, what about you?
I had a little D for a long time, and that didn't stick because I grew a lot. And then I became Dillywhack. So
why Dillywhack?
Just a college nickname that stuck. So there you go.
Said.
Enough said.
Were you in frats? Were you in a fraternity?
I wasn't. I was not.
Oh, okay.
Yep.
All right. So I like that. No, there's nothing wrong with that. Talk to me about, Dylan, since you have the mic, we'll just continue with you. What is your background? Where did you grow up? Are you born and raised in Southern California?
Yeah, born and raised in Southern California. Was born in Newport Beach. My dad was born in the same hospital, and now my son and daughter are born in the same hospital in Newport Beach. So born and raised in Southern California, and then went to UCLA for college.
Nice. And Steve?
I was born and raised in San Jose, up north.
Okay,
and,
so still California.
Yeah. So born and raised in San Jose, and then I worked with Hyatt for many years. So after I first left San Jose to Phoenix, I really never went back to San Jose. So I eventually ended up here in Southern California, and this is home now.
That's great. And funny enough, just across the bay, I used to be the assistant food and beverage director at Hyatt Regency here.
No kidding.
I am a Hyatt person through and through. After I left the Walt Disney Company, that's where I ended up for doing some stuff with them and doing a lot of things for corporate with Hyatt. So
how long were you with Hyatt?
I was with them for just a couple of years.
Okay,
And then I moved on to a couple of other different things in restaurants and hospitality.
So you probably know my wonderful friend Lisa over there.
I do indeed.
She's awesome. She's
funny enough. I do indeed. So that is a family from a few years ago. As you have a different experience than Dylan, who was born and raised here, talk to me about what life was like for you growing up as a kid in San Jose. What was Northern California like? What was Leonard like as a kid?
Leonard, oh my gosh. You know what? Life is great. Life was great up there. We were born and raised in East San Jose, and I have three brothers, wonderful mom and dad, still with us, and they it was a fine, tight-knit family. We didn't have a lot, but good parenting usually means you don't know that you have a lot.
Which is accurate.
When you're growing up, and looking back, you know, we were very fortunate to have great parents like that. But just growing up, friends around the area, love playing football, love playing baseball, love sports, and you know, and I think I first got into hospitality when I was 16 years old, so I knew that that was my calling, and I've been in it ever since. Love it.
So very important. Who are your pro teams?
Oh my gosh, probably the Dodgers.
Okay.
And
now you pass. You could. This could continue.
Yeah, and then football. I just love football. I love football.
Okay.
I can tell you almost anything about football.
Pro, college, everything.
Everything.
Okay.
But I don't really have like a favorite team.
Oh.
I just love watching football.
Got it.
I love watching.
I just hope everybody has fun.
Oh my God! It is great.
I got it.
Football more than baseball. I love football.
Okay.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
Dodgers, you're all about it. That's great.
Yeah.
When you were growing up with your brothers, what were some of the fun things? Because Northern California, while still being in the state, is a very different beast. And like you said, with your family, and it seems like you were a close-knit or are a close-knit group.
Mm-hmm.
What was it like? What was, some of the fun things you enjoyed doing outside of being interested in sports, obviously? Talk to me about just you as a person kind of growing up and what your experience was like.
Well, we just, my dad would usually just pack us up in the station wagon and drive us around. And we would really never go, like, one memory I have is we all came to Southern California one time.
Okay.
And we all went to Disneyland. But we didn't go inside. We just looked from the outside.
Okay, but no. Okay, wait. So
we all thought we were in Disneyland.
No, that's great. So the question I have, did you go to the hotel?
No, we didn't go to the hotel.
Did you go to the parking lot?
We went in front of, there was a Denny's there.
There was.
I don't know if it's still there, but there was a Denny's in front of Disneyland. And then they had like the carved Mickey Mouse and Donald Duck. And I don't know if my dad told us that was Disneyland, but we kind of believed it. So we were just like, oh my gosh, we're at Disneyland, but we can never afford to go inside Disneyland.
I get it.
But so we would do things like that. And then or we'd go to Monterey up in, and same thing. And the quick story on that,
yeah,
Monterey, my beautiful niece got married in Carmel, and it was a beautiful hotel. And I'm not sure, I forgot which one it was. It was in Pebble Beach. And as my brother's doing the toast, my oldest brother, he's doing the toast, and he's saying, when we were kids, my dad would take us in the station wagon, and we would drive around to all these places to look at. And he goes, and I remember coming to Pebble Beach, and we would just come and go. And he said, and here I am, years later, having my daughter's wedding here at Pebble Beach. I get chills thinking about it, but it made me think about how great my mom and dad, are in raising us and letting us look at the things that were available to us if we work hard. So anyways, that was just...
No, I don't downplay that in any way, shape, or form, because the thing that's really important, and I think especially being in the hospitality industry as you are, there's so much to it when we work with guests that you don't necessarily know. That, meaning that guests don't know where your experience comes from. Yeah. So you cut your teeth in this, as you said, 16 was probably your first gig in hospitality, but even that, talking about your niece getting married and being in Pebble Beach and your brother giving the toast, it's so specific to say, this was something that my parents, while they didn't have a lot, really introduced us to, be it the finer things in life or some really unique and fun adventures, including Disneyland. I mean, I was the same. We didn't have a lot of money. I was born and raised here in Southern California. And we did the same thing. We went into the parking lot when there was a parking lot, and we watched the fireworks, and we had a cassette player, and we played Disney music. Oh, okay. And the Denny's you're talking about is the Monorail Cafe, which is no longer there. Oh, okay. But we also did that. And they also used to have Fantasy Waters show at the hotel. That's why I was asking, because it was free to go to the hotel and see this really cool Disney water show. But I'm saying these are the core memories that really helped to kind of hone who you are and help move you into where you are now. So I think that's a big part.
And I think that's what Dylan and I both kind of, when we look at our guests, we always kind of like, we don't know what the guests are going through each and every day, good, bad, or whatever, but we have to take the assumption that, we have to make the assumption, maybe there's something that's going on in their life where we could do to make a difference. And that's why we love this business and we love hospitality, because you don't know what anybody's going through. So, we just kind of give everybody the benefit of the doubt and like, maybe we can create an experience. So.
And I think you have an incredible setting for that, which you're very, very lucky. And I can't wait to delve a little deeper into Art Deco and the things that are available here. But I'll let you pass it off to Dylan, because I want to get to know him a little bit.
All right.
And talk to me about, so your wife and daughters, you all live in Orange County still?
Yeah, so my wife is a teacher in Irvine.
Okay.
I have a almost 3-year-old daughter and then now a 2-month-old boy.
How is it being a parent? Like, what is that like for you, that experience? I want to delve a little bit into your childhood, but since we're there, let's talk about it. What is it like? Because you have the Queen Mary at your disposal. And this is a really unique place because some people will be like, oh, it's just historical. But I don't know, having your kids run around the deck here
Oh, yeah.
really has to be kind of a memorable situation. And, it's, as we say, it's a free 99 situation. Once you're on the ship, it's one of those things that doesn't cost anything, but, a bit of time and a fun experience. So what is that like? What is it?
I count my blessings every day to work here because I love that it's unique and different and not just sitting in a cubicle. I get to work on this historic ship and take pride in that as well. And my family obviously kind of latches on that as well. You always, we work late nights and it's part of the gig and all of that. But my daughter already has it in her head. Oh, are you going to the big boat? And she gets all excited about it because it is different. It's not, oh, you go into the office. Are you, oh, you're going to the big boat. And the other night I called her from the parking lot. We had our night market going on out in the parking lot. And I was FaceTiming her and she was like, why aren't you on the big boat? Why are you down there? And so she gets it and knows that I'm here when I'm not there. And to answer your question about having kids, it just puts everything in perspective. Obviously, when I first was having my daughter, I was like, shoot, like, how am I going to be away from them and whatnot? But it actually plays to each other. Like it gives you a greater sense of purpose. And for me, at least, it gives me a drive to make the most out of the time that we have here and you're at work, because I don't want to just go and clock in my time clock and get back home. I want to make it meaningful, and thankfully we have a bigger purpose here that we're trying to drive forward that makes that a little bit easier. So,
and I think that's a great thing to say specifically, and I love that your daughter talks about the big boat, because even where Steve and I worked at the Hyatt Regency across the street, or across the bay, it's a beautiful building, but it's just a building. Like the swan boats out front are way more interesting than the building itself. But here, for her to have that memory of being able to also go where dad goes, is able to visit your work, we don't have that opportunity a lot of times. I know for me in media, I can't take my nieces and nephews with me behind the scenes a lot of times because it's a lockdown facility. We're filming or we're recording or whatever. So I think it's really special for you to be able to do that and also have that as kind of something that's steering you behind the scenes of how those guest experiences will be.
Yeah, it's super fun. I have a really good buddy that lives here in Long Beach, and his son just had a 5th birthday, and they've lived here for about 2 or 3 years. But he just talks about the Queen Mary constantly, even though he's never been here. Like he just has seen it across the bay or heard about it or whatever. And so all he wanted to do for his 5th birthday was to come here to the Queen Mary. And so, we obviously got them on board, and the Commodore greeted him and gave him a book. And now he just had a show and tell, and he knew every single thing in the book that the Commodore gave him and all of this. And it's like, that's special. And that's what we're all about, is creating those memories.
And take me back to a young Dylan, because I don't want to leave you out. You don't get to skate there, Dillywhack, although that's college. But no, talk to me about what it was like growing up in Southern California. Being in Newport Beach, being a beach town. We're here in Long Beach, which is a beach town. What was that like for you? Talk to me about family in that regard.
Yeah, definitely in my DNA is the beach. My dad was in an 80s rock band when I was born, and hardcore surfer, if you will. Okay. And if you meet him, you would understand that, okay, yes, you're a Southern California surfer. And when they were having me, they looked in the baby book and they were looking through names, and finally they saw Dylan, and whatever book they were looking at, it said Son of the Wave. And he was a hardcore surfer, and so he's like, oh my gosh, we got to name him Dylan.
They didn't name him Son of the Wave.
Yeah, I was gonna say that's a mouthful and something altogether. That's very funny. Yes.
So yeah, all of my childhood grew up going to the beach, and that's in my DNA. And thankfully now my daughter just like lights up anytime we say, hey, do you want to go to the beach? Or she, like, every morning when she wakes up, it's almost like, are we going to the beach? And like, not today, it's closed today. But yeah,
I get it. No, because my family is all down in San Clemente, and my brother-in-law grew up surfing and going surfing before school every day. So I understand where your daughter comes from, because my nieces, their kids are no different of wanting to go in the water. And yeah, there's plenty of sand everywhere. But talk to me briefly about how you got into hospitality. What brought you over to this world? We'll kind of breakneck speed move you forward to adulthood and fill me, not necessarily in the Queen itself, but how you got into the industry of hospitality.
Yeah, the interesting thing that, obviously looking back, you're always like, oh, that makes a lot of sense that I am involved with events now and experiences and things like that. I remember as early as middle school, the ASB, they were giving out roles and whatnot, and I got the Friday activities coordinator in middle school, and it was like, oh, I'm not the president or I'm not the vice president
Okay.
to Friday activities, but it ended up being me and my best friend at the time. We and him would we would come up with these wacky games, and the school loved it and all of this. And like I found so much joy in that, and then ultimately went on to high school and kind of did the same thing and putting on these big, obviously your stereotypical proms and dances and things like that. So then I tended to kind of gravitate towards that stuff once I went to UCLA as well, and then had an opportunity to get into hospitality. And it's like, oh, this is what I can't even tell you what else I would be interested in right now, just because I love serving and love creating these experiences for people.
He's good at it too.
Well, the boss says you're good at it, and let's talk to the boss about how did you come to hospitality? Obviously, we've talked about working at Hyatt, and talk to me about what was that 16-year-old hospitality job?
Well, I started off as a banquet houseman.
Okay.
So I had a part-time job before that.
And explain what a banquet houseman is, in case somebody doesn't know what that is.
So a banquet houseman is where you set up tables and chairs and stages in your banquet rooms. So you go to, let's say, a wedding, and you're setting up a head table, and you're putting the skirts on the tables and so forth. So I started off at the Red Lion Hotel in San Jose, years ago. So I started off doing that, and then I became a waiter, and then I became a captain, and I became a banquet manager, and eventually I worked my way into catering. I did catering and food and beverage, and eventually became a general manager, and now I'm here.
I know, and I was going to say, and what is, and I think I'll do this to wrap up part one for both of you. What is it like being on something unique and historic like the Queen Mary? Because obviously you have a background in hospitality.
Right.
You have been in the trenches where people have been, and you know what your banquet servers, you know what the stewards and everything else are doing. So that's very familiar. But this is a very different beast, including, and we're not talking cruise ship. While this, the Queen Mary made many transatlantic voyages, she's here now, and she's ours in Long Beach. So what is it like to run a ship like this?
It's an incredible opportunity. It's an exciting adventure. So many people come on to the ship, and we're not a hotel. We're not like just a museum. We're so many things to so many people. And when you come onto the ship, the cool thing about the Queen Mary is a lot of people who come onto the ship, they don't know what they're in for. They don't know what they're coming on the ship for. And so the funnest part is really just to create experiences for people. Like, what do you do creating content on the ship? So for me, I'm happy every day when I see guests walking the hallways or walking the prom deck or walking the sun deck, and they look happy and they look curious. And I think that's one of my favorite parts of the job, is just to stop and start talking to them and seeing where they're from and so forth. So I think, for me, I wake up every day I can't wait to come to work, because there's so much stuff to do. And with the Queen Mary, every day there's something to do. And every day, as long as you stay guest focused, you're going in the right direction. Once you start thinking about the stuff that really doesn't matter too much, then, that stuff can get you really it could distract you. And over here as a team, and Dylan and the rest of the team, I think we just stay focused on what's the experience for the guest. And as our North Compass, we always feel like we're trying to do the right thing with the guest.
I think you are. And I think, having been born and raised in Southern California myself, and having experienced many things, including having worked here, but not for the Queen, but for something that we're going to talk about later in the next part, that I may have been able to scare up a bit of an experience here a few times for a few years. But no, I think it's so unique and special. And I think that, as you've said, it is such an integral part to the fabric of Southern California, because when the Queen came here all those years ago, and well before my time, it was so different and it was so interesting. Even to the point that the Spruce Goose, which is no longer with us, it being under the dome, which is now where Carnival pulls up their cruise ships, it still has that, the village out front of the Queen Mary. It's such a different experience. Like you've said, this is something that really, truly is memorable. Hotel stays and hospitality are lovely. And the most important part that you've already talked about is it is the people that make that guest experience. It's not just the gorgeous observation bar where we're located right now. It's not the incredible Art Deco style or dinner at Sir Winston's or any of those things. it's all about the people that are behind the scenes.
It's all about the people. It's all about the people behind the scenes, in front of the scenes, in terms of like the ship. You know, we love the ship. We have the passion for the ship, and we want to do so great on creating experiences. But at the same time, we can't lose touch with, you know, our people. Do they have a great, you know, creating experiences not just for our guests, it's for our internal guests too, our people that work here. And you know, that sometimes we get, you know, we love the Queen and we get so wrapped up on doing great for the Queen. You know, we really got to look at the guests and say, well, what kind of experience are you going to have? As opposed to, you know, as opposed to them coming over and saying, oh, look at the Queen, look at, we have this and we have that and we have this. It's looking outwards to them and saying, look at what we've done for you. This is for you. Like, you know, planning late into the night it's for you. You know, it's not for us, it's for you. And that is fun. And that, I think, drives us like all the time to get better.
See, that's perfect. And I think it's a great place to put a pin in it for part one.
All right.
I will have you pass it off to Dylan. Dylan, tell us where we can find out more details about the Queen and how to stay and all those things, social media. Give us the 411.
Yeah, so obviously queenmary.com is where we have everything. The one thing that is semi-new within the last month or two that we've rolled out is queenmary.com/what's on deck. And that our goal is that every day of the week there's something going on here. So that's what we're excited to talk about in a little bit. And so yeah, you can check out what's on deck, and that's where you'll find out everything in the near future that's going on.
Which is epic. And as Dylan said, we're going to get deep into what's on deck. You can always check out thisweekendwithnick.com, the show notes to learn more about the Queen Mary, about Leonard and Dillywhack and the whole nine. But also check out Instagram, Nick Poliokini, and This Weekend with Nick. All the details are at the link in bio. And as always, on behalf of Steve and Dylan and myself, we look forward to seeing you out and about this weekend.